The first time I saw him, it was a stormy Thursday evening. The kind of night when the sky itself seemed to split open, rain battering the streets so hard it blurred the outlines of cars and lampposts. I had just finished a late shift at the bookstore downtown, my arms full of unsold stock I was carrying back to the inventory room. By the time I finally locked up and stepped into the rain, my umbrella had already snapped backward in the wind. I cursed softly, hugging my coat tighter around me, praying I'd make it home without being completely drenched. That's when I saw him. He was standing across the street under the awning of a closed coffee shop, dark hair plastered to his forehead, his jacket dripping with rain. At first glance, he looked like any other young man caught in a storm, tired, cold, and maybe just a little lost. But there was something about the way he stood there, unmoving, watching the street like he was waiting for something or someone. Our eyes met briefly. I almost looked away, but something in his gaze pulled me in. He wasn't threatening, not exactly. More like desperate. I should have kept walking. I should have hurried home, locked my door, and forgotten I'd ever seen him. But fate, or foolishness, made me pause. "You okay?" I called across the street, my voice nearly drowned out by the rain. He hesitated, then stepped closer, his shoes splashing through puddles. "Not really. My bag got stolen at the bus station. Phone, wallet, everything's gone. I don't even have money for a ride." His voice was low, rough, like someone who'd been shouting earlier. I blinked at him, wary. He could have been lying. People made up stories all the time for a few dollars. But something about him, the way his shoulders hunched, the exhaustion carved into his face, made me believe him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him. I glanced around. The rain was coming down harder now, and I felt guilty standing there warm in my coat while he looked like a drowned stray dog. Against every bit of common sense I had, I heard myself say, "You can come to my place." Just to dry off and figure things out? His eyes flickered with surprise. "Are you sure? You don't even know me." "I know," I said, my heart racing. "But it's better than you standing out here all night." And that was it. The moment. Everything changed. My apartment wasn't much, just a small one-bedroom on the third floor of a fading brick building, but it was dry and warm. He stepped inside cautiously, dripping water onto the rug, looking around like he wasn't sure if he was allowed. "Thanks," he muttered, his voice softer now. "I owe you one." I shrugged, setting down my soaked bag. "Don't mention it. Do you want a towel? Maybe some tea?" He nodded, his expression unreadable. As I fetched him a towel and started boiling water, I couldn't stop sneaking glances at him. Up close, he looked even younger than I thought, maybe mid-20s. He had sharp cheekbones, eyes that seemed too dark for the dim light of my apartment, and a small scar near his jawline that caught my attention. His clothes were worn but not dirty, like he'd been traveling. He caught me staring once and smiled, faintly. "You must think I'm crazy." "A little," I admitted, "but harmless, I hope." That made him chuckle. "Yeah, harmless." He told me his name was Daniel, or at least that's what he said. Something in the way he said it made me wonder if it was the truth. But I didn't press. I offered him tea, and he held the mug like it was a lifeline, warming his frozen fingers against the ceramic. We talked a little. He said he was just passing through on his way to figure some things out. He didn't go into detail, and I didn't push. I've never been good at prying into other people's secrets. By the time the storm passed and the city outside fell quiet again, it was past midnight. He looked exhausted, and though every instinct screamed at me that letting a stranger stay in my home was insane, I found myself saying, "You can sleep on the couch if you want." He gave me a long look like he was trying to read me, to see if I was serious. Then he nodded slowly. "Thank you. You don't know what this means to me." And so, the stranger stayed. The next morning, I expected him to be gone. Maybe he'd slip out before sunrise, leaving behind nothing but a damp towel and a faint memory of his presence. But when I walked into the kitchen, he was still there, sitting at the small table, sipping coffee like he belonged. "Morning," he said, his voice calm, too calm. I froze. A part of me felt uneasy seeing him still there. This wasn't supposed to be permanent. Yet another part of me, lonely, tired of the silence of my apartment, felt a strange comfort in it. "You're still here," I said awkwardly. He smirked, faintly. "Did you want me to leave?" I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The truth was, I didn't know. The days turned into a strange rhythm. Daniel didn't talk much about himself, but he was helpful. He fixed the squeaky hinge on my bathroom door, helped carry groceries up the stairs, even cooked dinner once when I came home too tired to do it myself. He wasn't intrusive. He stayed out of the way, sitting quietly with a book or gazing out the window as though waiting for something. Still, questions nagged at me. Who was he really? Why had his bag been stolen? Why hadn't he tried harder to leave, to get back on his feet? One evening I asked him, "Don't you have anyone to call? Family? Friends?" His jaw tightened. No one worth calling. There was something final in the way he said it, and I let the subject drop. But as the weeks passed, I noticed little things. He never checked his phone, because apparently he didn't have one. He flinched whenever the police car sirens wailed. Outside. And once, when he thought I wasn't looking, I saw him staring at the knife block in my kitchen, his fingers brushing over the handle of the largest blade before he pulled away. A chill ran through me, but I pushed it down. He hadn't done anything wrong. He was kind, respectful, even gentle. I told myself I was being paranoid until the night I woke up and found him standing in my bedroom doorway. It was 3 a.m. I stirred awake to the sound of the floor creaking. My eyes fluttered open, and there he was, silhouetted in the dim light of the street lamp filtering through my blinds. "Daniel?" My voice cracked. "What are you doing?" He didn't move for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "I couldn't sleep." Something in his tone made my blood run cold. He wasn't threatening, not exactly, but the way he looked at me, like he was deciding something, set every nerve in my body on edge. Finally, he whispered, "You really shouldn't trust strangers so easily." And then he turned and walked back to the couch, leaving me frozen in bed, my heart pounding like a drum. That was the first time I felt real fear, the first time I wondered if letting him in had been the biggest mistake of my life. For the next few days after that night, I couldn't shake the memory of Daniel standing in my doorway. His words echoed in my head. "You really shouldn't trust strangers so easily." He had meant it as advice, I told myself. A warning, not a threat. But the way he'd said it, the way his eyes lingered on me in the dark, kept gnawing at my nerves. Still, I didn't tell him to leave. Something inside me, curiosity, loneliness, maybe even something darker, kept me tethered to him. Subtle shifts. At first, things went back to normal. He stayed on the couch, helped around the apartment, kept to himself. But once I started noticing, I couldn't stop seeing the cracks. He asked too many questions. "Do you live here alone? What time do you usually come home from work? Do your neighbors check on you often?" The questions seemed innocent, disguised as casual conversation, but there was an edge to them, like he was mapping out my life, learning the blind spots. I answered vaguely, trying not to reveal too much. But every time I caught his eyes studying me, I felt like I'd already given him more than I should. The journal one evening, while cleaning the living room, I accidentally knocked over his backpack, the only thing he had with him when he showed up that rainy night. It tumbled onto the floor, spilling out a battered notebook. I shouldn't have looked. I knew it the second my fingers brushed the worn leather cover. but curiosity outweighed guilt. Inside were pages and pages of neat, slanted handwriting, lists, names, addresses, phone numbers, some crossed out, some underlined. My stomach tightened. Flipping further, I found entries that read more like diary notes. She trusts me already. Too easy. Need to stay until after the storm passes. She won't see it coming. Never. Thought it would be this simple. My blood ran cold. Was he writing about me or someone else? I snapped the journal shut and shoved it back into his bag, my hands trembling. When he came back into the room a moment later, I plastered on a smile and pretended nothing had happened. But the image of those words burned in my mind. The control. Creeps. And after that, I noticed how quickly he was weaving himself into every corner of my life. When I came home late one night, he scolded me gently. "It's not safe walking alone after dark. You should have texted me." The words were caring, protective even, but I didn't remember giving him the right to expect updates from me. He started cooking most nights. At first it felt sweet, but then I realized he was deciding what I ate, when I ate. If I reached for something else, he'd say, "That's not good for you. Eat this instead." He offered to do my laundry. I refused, but later found my clothes folded neatly in my drawers anyway. It wasn't just kindness anymore. It was control. The warning. My best friend Lila noticed it first. We were sitting at a cafe near my work, sipping coffee when she leaned in and whispered, "Something's off about this guy. You barely know him, yet he's living with you. Doesn't that seem dangerous?" I wanted to defend him, to explain that he wasn't like that he was just in a rough spot. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I shrugged. "It's temporary. He'll be gone soon." But Lila's words stayed with me, because deep down, I knew she was right. The first outburst, the first time he snapped, it shocked me. I had mentioned casually that I might spend the weekend with Lila. His jaw tightened, his voice low and sharp. "Why? Don't you trust me? Or do you just prefer her company?" I blinked, taken aback. "It's not about that. She's my friend." His eyes darkened. "You let her plant ideas in your head, don't you? She doesn't want what's best for you." It was the first time I saw anger flash across his face, raw and unguarded. For a moment, I thought he might throw the mug in his hand. But then, just as quickly, he smiled, the tension melting away. "Sorry," he murmured. "I didn't mean that. I just don't like the thought of losing the only person who's been kind to me." I forced a smile, but my heart pounded with unease. The night of truth. That night I lay awake long after he'd fallen asleep on the couch. My mind kept circling back to his journal. The lists, the names, the way he knew too much about me. Finally, I made a decision. I would confront him. "Daniel," I said softly the next morning as he stirred awake. His eyes opened slowly, fixing on me. "Yeah? What's in the notebook?" For a moment, silence. His face unreadable. Then a smile curved his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You went through my things." It wasn't a question. I swallowed hard. It fell out. I didn't mean to pry." He sat up, running a hand through his hair. "Those names, they're people who hurt me. People who needed to be remembered." "Remembered how?" I asked, my voice trembling. Another long pause. His eyes locked on mine, dark and steady. "You really shouldn't trust strangers so easily," he whispered again. A chill shot down my spine. The lock after that conversation, things shifted further. I noticed he started locking the door at night. Not just the front door, but the chain from the inside. When I asked why, he smiled faintly. "To keep you safe." "But safe from what?" Or from whom? The thought gnawed at me. That maybe it wasn't about keeping danger out, but keeping me in. The call desperate for clarity, I called Lila one afternoon while he was out buying groceries. I told her everything, his questions, the journal, the way he made me feel like I was both cared for and caged. Her voice sharpened. This isn't safe. You need to get rid of him now. I'll come over tonight and we'll talk to him together. Relief washed through me. Maybe I wasn't crazy. Maybe I wasn't imagining the danger. But when Daniel returned, I must not have hidden my nerves well enough. His eyes narrowed, watching me too closely. You called someone, didn't you? He asked softly, setting the groceries down. My throat went dry. No, I just was on the phone with work. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at me for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, he smiled. You'd tell me if you didn't. Trust me, right? I forced a nod, my heart pounding. But I knew then he didn't believe me. The breaking point, that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard a knock at the door. Lila's voice called softly. It's me. I rushed to open it, but before I could, Daniel stepped between us and the door. His hand rested lightly on the knob, his posture relaxed but blocking the way. You didn't mention company, he said calmly. I swallowed hard. It's just Lila. She wanted to check in. His smile didn't falter. You don't need her. You have me. The words were gentle, but final. A decision, not a suggestion. And in that moment I realized Daniel had no intention of leaving. That night, after he finally fell asleep on the couch, I lay awake again, staring at the ceiling, my chest tight with fear. I had let a stranger into my life, and now he was everywhere, in my home, in my routine, in my thoughts. And for the first time, I wondered if I'd ever be able to get him out. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined Daniel standing over me again, watching, calculating. His words whispered back like a haunting refrain. You really shouldn't trust strangers so easily. By dawn, my decision was clear. He had to go, one way or another. The escape plan I thought about running while he was out, but that meant abandoning my home, my life. Besides, what if he came back and found me gone? Something told me he wouldn't just disappear quietly, so instead, I planned. I texted Lila from the bathroom where I knew he couldn't overhear. Tonight, call the police. Tell them everything, she replied instantly. Got it. Be careful. I'll be outside at 8. I deleted the messages, my fingers trembling. All I had to do was survive the day. His watchful eyes, Daniel, seemed different that morning. Lighter. Cheerful even. He made breakfast, pancakes, eggs, coffee, like we were a happy couple sharing an ordinary life. But beneath that surface calm, his eyes tracked me. Every move I made, he noticed. Why are you so quiet today? He asked casually, sliding a plate in front of me. Just tired, I said, forcing a smile. He studied me for a long moment before nodding. You should rest. You'll need your energy. The way he said it made the fork freeze in my hand. Need my energy for what? I pushed the thought away. Just a few more hours, I told myself. Then Lila would come, and it would all be over. The confrontation at 7:45 p.m. My chest was tight with nerves. Daniel sat on the couch, flipping through his notebook. I couldn't see what he was writing, but every scratch of the pen made my skin crawl. Then came the knock. 3 soft raps. Lila! I jumped up, but Daniel was faster. He stood, blocking the door, his body a solid wall. Who is it? He asked, his voice calm but edged with steel. My throat dried. It's just Lila. She wanted to. I told you. He interrupted, his tone sharper now. You don't need her. Something inside me snapped. Weeks of fear, doubt, and silence boiled over. No, Daniel, I said, my voice shaking but firm. I do need her, and I need you to leave." The room fell into a heavy silence. His smile faded. Slowly, deliberately, he set the notebook aside. "After everything I've done for you, you're throwing me away?" "You're not my responsibility," I whispered. "You were never supposed to stay." His eyes darkened. "You don't mean that." But I did. For the first time, I truly did. The violence when I reached for the doorknob, his hand shot out, slamming it shut. The force rattled the frame. "You can't," he said quietly, his voice trembling with something dangerous. "You don't understand. Without you, I have nothing." I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened, his knuckles white. Panic surged through me. "Daniel, let go!" His face twisted. Pain, anger, desperation, all colliding at once. And then, faster than I could react, he shoved me back. I stumbled, crashing into the table, the plates from dinner shattering on the floor. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard Lila pounding on the door outside, shouting my name. Daniel's chest heaved, his hands shaking. "Why did you make me do this?" he whispered. "Why couldn't you just let things be?" I scrambled backward, my hand closing around a jagged shard of broken plate. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. "Stay away from me," I warned, holding the shard out like a weapon. For a moment he hesitated. His eyes, those dark, unreadable eyes, met mine, and in them, I saw it. The truth. He hadn't, just stumbled into my life by accident. He had chosen me, targeted me, and I had let him in. The rescue. The pounding on the door grew louder, then suddenly the wood splintered as it burst open. Lila stumbled in, 2 police officers close behind. "Her! Freeze!" one of them barked. Daniel spun toward them, his expression blank, almost calm. Slowly, he raised his hands, though his eyes never left mine. "You'll regret this," he murmured, so soft only I could hear. The officers moved quickly, pinning him to the floor, snapping handcuffs around his wrists. He didn't fight. He didn't scream. He just watched me, his gaze steady, as though memorizing my face. And then, just like that, he was gone. The aftermath. The apartment felt empty after they took him away. Too quiet. The silence pressed against my ears until I thought I'd go mad. Lila stayed with me that night, but even her presence couldn't chase away the image of Daniel's eyes staring at me as the police dragged him out. I found his notebook. Later, left behind in the chaos. I shouldn't have opened it, but I couldn't help myself. The last entry was dated that very day. "She's different, not like the others. She makes me want to stay. She makes me want to change. But she'll never understand. And when she betrays me, I'll have no choice." I slammed it shut, bile rising in my throat. How many others had there been before me? How many had trusted him only to pay the price? The price weeks passed. I tried to move on, to return to normal life. But nothing felt normal anymore. I double-checked my locks every night, jumped at every shadow on the street. Sometimes I thought I saw him, in the corner of a crowded cafe, on the other side of the subway platform, always watching, always waiting. The police told me he was still in custody, facing charges, but my paranoia whispered otherwise. Because the truth was, Daniel had already taken something from me that I'd never get back. My sense of safety, my trust. I had let a stranger into my life, and I would pay the price forever.